Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope everyone's having an awesome week. I know that we're all desperately waiting for the new episode to drop this Sunday. We actually just had a really big reveal drop, and this doesn't come from any of the games or from the TV show. This actually comes from the Last of Us podcast, which is on the HBO Max YouTube channel. It's hosted by Troy Baker, the original voice actor for Joel, and in this interview he's talking to Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, and we get a little bit of insight into the backstory of Tess. Now, this is something that's been a mystery for a long time that have kind of had fans guessing. Little has been known about Tess, and still very little is known, but we at least get a little bit more into her backstory. So I'm going to play a clip into the podcast to get into what we're talking about.
There is something, we had talked about, and we wrote it. We never shot it. And it was a little bit of a backstory of Tess and the fact that Tess had a kid. She had a husband and she had a son, and they were infected, and she had to kill them. She killed her husband, but she could not kill the son. She couldn't do it.
She locked him in the basement.
She locked him in the basement, where theoretically he's still a clicker.
Because we had a cold open where we just the camera pushed on this door and you just hear this pounding coming from this basement, and then we cut out.
Yeah.
And then later Tess would tell the story of how she couldn't kill her son. It like Craig is saying, it didn't fit. It was fun to think about.
It cuts to something that she has that Joel doesn't want to have again. She is brave enough to dare to hope.
Now, I thought that was really interesting. It's something that we haven't explored before in the character, and I really wish we would have been able to see some of that. I understand why they had to cut it. Obviously, they don't have the amount of time that they would need to have fully develop that story, but it's still really interesting to think about. Now, if you want to finish this interview, I highly recommend it. It's kind of neat. They go on to explain that she actually accepts the fact that Ellie might actually be immune to this infection early on. In a way, she's kind of manipulating Joel into getting what she wants. She knows that Joel will pretty much do whatever she says as long as he feels that they're actually going to get something in the end, in this case being the battery. She holds on to that hope, and you can actually see in this episode she starts to bond with Ellie a little bit more than Joel does. I think the idea of her being a mother who lost her kid is actually interesting, and it adds a new dynamic to Ellie and Tess. Now, it's short-lived, but it's interesting nonetheless. They go on to explain that Tess kind of goes into a sort of mother mode where she feels the need to protect this kid, even though she barely knows her. She gets the sense of hope that she kind of holds on to. Joel is pretty easily dismissive of it. If it was up to him, he would just take Ellie to the QZ zone and have it be somebody else's problem. But Tess starts to feel a sense of responsibility for her. It's these small details that are really making the adaptation worthy. The idea that Tess's son might still be locked in the basement and is this 20-year-old clicker just screeching around down there waiting for somebody to let him out. It's something I never really thought about before. I really wish that we would have gotten that scene that they were talking about with the slow pushing on a door and you just hear the clicking sounds behind it, and then later on in the episode you get the payoff realizing that that's actually Tess's son. That would have been so cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just a small little detail that I thought was cool. Honestly, if you have the time, I really recommend checking out these podcasts because it's really interesting to get this insight from the creators and to hear about Troy Baker's reaction to a lot of the stuff in the game, seeing as he's the original Joel Miller. And just to hear the way that he talks about Pedro Pascal's performance, it's just really awesome. So I highly recommend checking out. And as always, thank you for watching. That's it. See ya.